We back at it. One take Rob. BSO. Let's do this.
Big Rob's the head like King. Akeem is a dream. You're doing with Balco, that's the clear and the cream. A Flacco is a lead. A Drea's for the street. You say you for the culture, but don't bring the heat. A Jimmy's a butler. A mid QB, we called it a J Cutler. A hustler's a flint. A Bayless is something you might wanna skip. Screaming dudes, be Stephen A. Smith. Sell out to Whitlock. When your stock is falling, that's a Madoff. Play, y'all failed the code of Prescott. You got blindsided, that's a Michael Orr. Your girl's a Jerry Jones, she's a Skeletor. Felling up is a Trump. A button is a pump it up. A LeBron is a Connery, the page of a book.
My brother, what are you cheesing for?
Oh, you being interviewed by Taylor Rooks. White girls ballin', that's a Caitlin Clark. The soundboard shuffle is Jokic cooking 80 at the top of the arc.
R.I.P. Big L. One of the best rappers to ever do it. Headlines with your boy, Robert Littal. Yours truly, OJ Simpson, has passed away at the age of 76. Goodbye, Twitter world. Orenthal is no more. And of course, social media has taken this news very seriously. As you can see on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, everyone is giving this passing the respect that it deserves. But I want to tell you a couple of things about OJ that you might not have known, especially if you're a little bit younger. If you're older, you probably already knew this. Most people only know OJ from the murder trial, from him being in jail for the Las Vegas robbery, and his social media posts. If you've done a little research, you may have learned that OJ liked to be on the milk yacht. OJ loved the milk. And some people would say that OJ moved away from his blackness as soon as he had the opportunity and only used it when he needed to be found not guilty of double murder. OJ was from the hood. Don't know if you knew this. OJ had a very interesting childhood. He was born in San Francisco. His dad was a drag queen in the Bay Area, died of AIDS in 1986. His grandparents are from the deep South. OJ had rickets and wore braces on his legs until he was 5 years old. His first wife, which a lot of people don't remember, was black. Super black, like Velma in Good Times black. He had 2 kids with her, which we'll get around to a little bit later. The rest you probably know. He goes on to star at USC. He goes to the Buffalo Bills. They're never a winner, but he's the first and only, and probably the last running back to run for 2,000 yards in just 14 games. He's one of probably the top 5 running backs of all time. If you erase your mind for a minute and just go look at OJ Simpson's football highlights, he's one of the greatest backs that you will ever see. Never had a lot of success in Buffalo, but it wasn't because of him. He was a star of stars. One could say he's one of the first, especially black, athletes to cross over to mainstream stardom after his career. He did commercials. He was an actor. He was the sideline reporter. All these things that seem natural now for athletes to do after their career, OJ was one of the first black athletes to do that. Him and Jim Brown, one of the first athletes to do movies. And you got to understand, this is the 70s. we're coming right after the civil rights, movement. Everything wasn't cool in our country. But he was one of the first, and he had crossed over. At the time, OJ Simpson was considered one of the famous men in America. To give you a real world example, the OJ Simpson was like The Rock now. Just imagine if The Rock was accused of killing 2 people right now. That's how you would feel if you were watching OJ back in the day. So when this happened, this double murder, people were shocked. They were shocked. Not OJ. Now, as you will find out later, everybody has some demons. Everything that you see, just like now on social media, what you see what people say, it's not really what's going on behind the scenes. And as more information came out, it wasn't as shocking. But back then, it was shocking. Not OJ, not the guy that ran through the airport, not my guy that was falling down the steps in the movie, not OJ. But that's where we were. And it was an interesting time because this is off of the Rodney King acquittal of the cops and the LA riots. And then you had this big case. And I'm not going to go over all of that, but I do want to point out a couple of things. I'm listening to some of the people today talk about OJ. I saw Jeremy Schaap on ESPN. I've seen some other people, and they're very passionate about what they have to say about OJ. They're very passionate about, even though he was acquitted, that the majority of people will see him as a double murderer. And that's the only thing that they're going to think about. Well, that's not the only thing I'm going to think about. And that's not the only thing that a lot of Black America is going to think about. One thing about OJ, and he was an unusual participant in this, because if you ask OJ, I'm not Black, I'm OJ. But one thing that OJ did was that he shined a light on what Black Americans have to deal with when dealing with the police. One thing that I'm going to remember is OJ basically exposed the corruption of the LAPD. He exposed how the cops, regardless if you're innocent or guilty, can make sure that you're guilty. He and his legal team, Johnny Cochran, that's what they exposed to the world, to me. So when I see people like Jeremy Schaap and others come out and say, only thing that people are going to remember, no. No, we have to remember why OJ Simpson was found not guilty. That's important. Why was OJ Simpson found not guilty? Granted, he had the money to hire a legal team that could break down specifically, and a lot of Black Americans don't have this type of money, to break down specifically how corrupt the LAPD was, how corrupt the system is for Black people. He had the means to show that to the world. And in 2024, literally just saw a video of 2 cops opening up liquor, pouring it in a guy's car, and then say that he had an open container, only to see that guy still go to trial and be found guilty of DUI. So, talking 30 years later, still the same thing that is going on. And it's always interesting to me because you wonder, when you see certain people have a certain visceral reaction to OJ, is it just OJ that they're having the visceral reaction to? Or is this how they feel about all Black people? Do they feel like somewhere in us there's a double murderer? When they talk about it and you see the way that they look in their face, when they see a Black man walking down the street with a white woman, what do they really think? really going on? So I take that into consideration. So when you hear people say, well, OJ Simpson, the only thing people, no. I was there. I was a young adult in 1994. I was around different people. And I saw different reactions. And I see what's still going on today. And unfortunately, like the gentleman that had to use a defense lawyer that was given to him. He didn't have a dream team. Go to jail for DUI, even though on video someone's planting evidence. I see that today, and then I think of OJ. That's what I think. Very sad that two people lost their lives, and that becomes an afterthought in this entire process. That's really what we all should be focused on. The two people that lost their lives. But I think more people are focused on OJ. More people are focused on the cops. More people are focused on the spectacle than the fact that two people lost their lives. I've said for years that I believe it's impossible for OJ to have done this himself. Not that I believe that OJ had nothing to do with it, but I just felt that it seemed impossible that OJ, at his age, with his injuries, with the amount of violence that took place, that OJ Simpson could have committed this crime by himself. I posted an article today that I posted before, that there's some strong evidence that his son, Jason, could have possibly been involved in this. And one of the reasons why is because the LAPD is inept. They're corrupt. They was corrupt in 1994. They're corrupt in 2024. OJ Simpson was not in good health back then. Maybe not in good health in regards to, living, but as far as his body, his knees, his shoulders, and things of that nature. Jason Simpson had assaulted people with deadly weapons. He had a knife that was similar. He was on antipsychotic meds at the time. The cap that was found matches a cap that's in a picture that Jason is wearing. He had no alibi for the time that this all happened. There's always more to the story. What you've been told and what you see, it's a small part. And, a lot of people think OJ is going to hell. And if he killed two people, he should go to hell. I find it interesting. Caitlyn Jenner is talking about that OJ, good riddance, go to hell. She killed somebody a couple of years ago. But she had enough money to make those vehicular homicide charges go away. So who is she to judge? She should ask the kids of the person that she killed, that she had to settle those lawsuits with, how they feel. A lot of people, big bricks, really big bricks. They live in glass houses. A lot of people gonna feel a certain way about certain things, certain people. And you're entitled to feel that. But always remember, if you don't remember anything else, the number one reason that OJ Simpson was not in jail for life for the double murders of his wife, his ex-wife, and his friend was because the LAPD was so racist, they couldn't just sit on the evidence that they had. They had to add a little bit more. They had to add a little bit extra. They had to add a little hot sauce to it. They wanted to make sure they got their guy. Now then you ask yourself, if you ever get accused of a crime and you don't have a dream team, you think it's going to happen to you when the cops decide they want to add a little hot sauce to your charges?